Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first in Sponsored Programs Online Professional Development Series. Our intention is for these videos to provide a brief but hopefully useful bit of information related to various topics that are important to research and grant funding topics. Today, we will be discussing external funding incentives. My name is Joshua Markham, and I'm the grant writer here with Sponsored Programs, and I'm here with my colleague, Suzanne Wilchkin, our grant administrator. And so our learning objectives for this session, we have three. We want to hopefully have an understanding of the common incentives for grant seeking. You know, what is motivating people to, to take on this challenge? And then to help you all understand what are the available incentives for UCA faculty and staff. And then lastly, to help you identify the contacts for those incentive programs that we have here on campus. So to kind of give some context for this, for the past 2 years, our staff has spent some time trying to understand how to better support our faculty and staff in their scholarly and research and creative endeavors. And so we asked everyone on campus to participate in a survey to kind of get a sense of the perceived barriers to grant writing. And so we had a lot of good responses to that. But we also have conducted a pretty thorough literature review to see what other universities are hearing from their faculty and staff. And so this is the common concerns that we've encountered. So lack of time, that not having the necessary release time to prepare proposals, and then also just feeling perhaps a bit overloaded with work. And so the idea of something else on top of that seems a bit much. A second thing that over and over again that people will mention is that there's a low funding rate, or that these competitions are just too competitive. The PUIs, such as UCA, simply can't compete against those R1 institutions. And the last thing that people commonly mention is that they're just unfamiliar with the grant development process. And so to be honest with you, many of these concerns are valid. Certainly the grant development process and grant writing in general is time consuming. And many of these competitions are highly competitive with funding rates that are typically around 15%. But we want to provide the resources to help make grant applications more competitive and to definitely help with some of those burdens with time. That's what our staff is here to do, is to support you. And to provide as much information as possible about the grant development process, which is a bit about what we're doing today. So external funding incentives, these are the things that we have found that motivate people to get involved with the grant development process. And so I've tried to organize these into three kind of large buckets, but you'll see if you kind of take a closer look at them that often, for example, the financial incentives really support those professional to growth incentives. So having the funds that grants can provide can lead to professional growth, can lead to opportunities for engaging students in research. And for some of those travel funds that are really financially motivated, that can also enable a faculty or staff member to access certain other types of professional development opportunities that are related to research. But we wanted to just show that these are the common incentives that folks seem to be motivated by and are interested in. And luckily for our faculty and staff here at UCA, we have many of these incentives already in place. And so with that is, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Suzanne Wilchkin, and she's going to discuss more about the current incentives at UCA.
Okay, hi everyone. At UCA, there's several incentives to grant seeking. The one that most people are interested in is financial incentives. So First, when a grant budgets for indirect costs, also known as F&A or facilities and administration costs, 8% of those recovered funds are placed in an account for the principal investigator to use at his or her discretion. So that right off the bat is a great reason to seek some grant funding. Second, there's an extramural funding incentive program for faculty. This is a trustee-approved policy that provides a means for faculty members who've won external funding to coordinate with their department chair to apply for monetary incentives. This is, there's a link to this policy in a form on the SPO website. And finally, the overload policy allows for faculty members to receive additional compensation for grant-funded work that is outside of the scope of their usual work. We don't usually see a lot of these, and there are conditions for using it, but it is available to you. Pilot programs can be used to leverage external grants by funding work that will yield preliminary data. And the following campus sources provide pilot funding or pilot program funding. The University Research Council, which is housed in the graduate school, the Research Grant Development Program, or RGDP, is out of our sponsored programs office. The UCA Foundation offers faculty grants each academic year, and the Center for Teaching Excellence offers faculty development grants several times a year. It is important to check with each funding source for specific guidelines on the intent and use of funds. Some grant funders require matching funds to be committed as a condition for the grant. The RGDP fund through sponsored programs can also be used for fulfilling matching or grant cost sharing requirements. Travel funds for activities related to grant proposal development are also available through the RGDP fund. For instance, if your funder hosts a conference or a workshop for prospective applicants, those travel costs to attend the workshop could be eligible for funding through the RGDP fund program. Sponsored programs offers a variety of on-campus grant seeking and grant writing training opportunities. These are offered throughout the course of the academic year and are open to everyone. In addition, we subscribe to a number of databases and organizations that provide access to a wealth of funding opportunities, and we publish a monthly online newsletter highlighting grant news. The bottom line is that if you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There are professionals available to help guide you each step of the way, from idea and project development to budgeting, editing, and the actual submission of the proposal. Finally, let's talk about tenure and promotion. At UCA, there isn't a blanket policy that gives consideration to grant seeking for tenure and promotion. However, there may be such consideration at the department level, so definitely check with your department chair if you're not sure. I know I've covered a lot of ground here. Josh will give a quick recap of the sources for UCA grant seeking incentives and how to connect with them.
Okay, well, thank you, Suzanne. So that was a lot of information, but as you can see, we have quite a few incentives that support grant making here on campus. And so here's a quick overview of sort of the internal departments that have a program in place that incentivizes grant work in some way. But there's still a lot more information that we simply don't have time to cover today. And so I wanted to show you a place where we've developed an overview of the external funding incentives that you can visit in your own time. So if you go to our website under services, you'll see an overview of available external funding incentives. And this PDF has quite a bit of detailed information that we've covered some today in our presentation, as well as links to all of the various resources and contact information that you may need for more information. So with that, that is all that we have for today. Our contact information is here. Our staff is always available to answer any questions. And thank you for your time.